This lesson is on section 8.4 titled Solving Equations with Variables on Each Side. So we're just kicking up a notch what we did in lesson 8.2, and we're having variables on both sides of the equations this time. So let's go into a quick first example. So the first example says to solve 8 plus 4d equals 5d. Notice that we have variables on each side of the equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tackle the variables first. I want to combine them first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 4d from both sides of the equation. I'm going to subtract the smaller one so I don't have any negative value. So I'm going to subtract 4d from this side of the equation and 4d from this side of the equation. That will get d on only one side of the equation. So I'm going to get rid of 4d here because 4d minus 4d is 0. I'm going to bring down what I haven't used. So now I'm left with 8 equals, well, 5 minus 4 is just 1d. And I solved it. 8 is going to equal d. 1d is the same as d, and I'm done. That was a really easy problem. It only involved one step. Please don't subtract 5 right away from each side, because then you would have no number left on this side of the equation. So kind of deal with subtracting the variable or adding the variable. That's not going to include a blank number on this side of the equation. So let's go to another example. 6n minus 1 equals 4n minus 5. Again, let's try to combine our n's first. Again, I'm going to go with this smaller number of n's first, so I don't get a negative. So I'm going to subtract 4n from this side because it's positive. I'm going to subtract 4n from this side. I'm subtracting its opposite because 4n minus 4n is going to cross off to make 0. So I'm going to bring down that negative 5. And then 6n minus 4n is going to be 2n. I'm going to bring down the minus 1 is going to equal negative 5. So now that brings us back to a two-step equation, what we're used to typically solving for. Again, I want to leave my variable by itself, or I want my variable to be by itself, so I want to get rid of everything around it. So I'm going to add 1 to this side to get rid of that minus 1. Negative 1 plus 1 crosses off to make 0. I'm going to bring down my 2 times some number. And then negative 5 plus 1 is going to be negative 4. And then divide both sides by 2, because the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm left with n is going to equal to negative 2. Again, let's go back and you have to make sure, please plug that negative 2 in to double check your answer as well to make sure you did that right. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that in this video, but please make sure you go back and double check to make sure that negative 2 is correct. All right, so my last example deals with a story problem. So it says a cell phone provider charges $24.95 per month plus 10 cents a minute for calls. Another provider charges $19.95 per month plus 20 cents a minute for calls. How many minutes of calls is the monthly cost of both providers the same? Okay, so let's underline some important things. $24.95 per month plus an additional 10 cents a minute. And then we have $19.95 per month plus additional 20 cents per minute. So if I want them to be the same, I want them to be equal to each other. So I need to turn the story problem into two equations and have them set equal, actually two expressions, and have those set equal to each other into an equation. So the first cell phone provider charges $24.95 and then adding an additional 10 cents per minute. I'm going to say that minutes is X. $24.95 plus 10 cents a minute. I'm going to set that the same as $19.95 per month plus 20 cents a minute. And now I'm just going to solve. I first need to combine my like terms, so I want to combine my x's first. So again, I'm going to subtract the smaller x. So I'm going to subtract 10x from this side, or I'm sorry, negative 10 cents x, you can think, from each side. Okay, draw my line. Let's bring down everything we haven't used. This crosses out, and that's going to equal $19.95 plus, well, 20 cents minus 10 cents is just going to be 10 cents times x. Okay, so now we're left with our two-step equation. Our variables are already combined. So now I want to solve for x. I want to get x by itself. So I want to get rid of $19.95 from this side. Get rid of $19.95 from this side. Again, we want to make that a 0. That's why we're subtracting. crosses out. So we have 2495 minus 1995. So then we're going to be left with, looks like 24 minus 19 is 5. So we're left with $5 on this side. And then we're going to bring on what I haven't used, with is 10 cents x. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide both sides by 10 cents. So I'm going to left with x is going to be 50. So that means for how many minutes? That means it's 50 minutes of calls is going to be the same for both providers. And again, you can always go back and double check your work. This one will take a little bit longer, but again, it's always good to go back and double check to make sure that that is correct. So again, in a sort of problem like this, always highlight that important information. Really understand what they're asking you. They're asking for both providers to be the same. That means they're asking you to set up those two expressions to be equal to each other and to solve for x. Again, kind of just to summarize this lesson, whenever you're given two variables in an equation, please make sure that you combine them first before you solve for that unknown variable. That brings me to the end. Thanks for watching.